Biden steals Reagan's line and mangles it, much like the presidency.
Mr. Reagan.
Now, spring is here, and what do we do in spring? Spring cleaning. The mower needs to be sorted, the garden looks a little bit wrecked, and the barbecue needs some work. You might enjoy doing these jobs, but if you don't, or you can't, you're going to need to pay somebody else, and that takes a bit of money. And let's face it, putting money aside for comfortable retirement is the only way that you're going to get out of doing the lawn yourself, right? And if you got a little bit of money saved up in the bank, well, that way you can visit the kids, you can hike the trail, you can play golf, all the things that your friends are doing. And Noble Gold can help with this by investing in precious metals along with your other investments. A gold or silver IRA is a great way of doing this. And this month, Noble Gold is gifting a genuine rare Carson City minted Morgan silver dollar with every qualifying IRA or 401k that you invest with. And this thing is fantastic. I mean, even just the case, I love this thing. See, because I actually really love old coins and stuff like that. And it's absolutely beautiful. I looked it up, and these things are a nice little chunk of change, and it's genuinely old. I mean, apparently these things were distributed in the 70s. They were obviously minted in the 19th century. In 1964, after a century in obscurity in the vaults. So these were in like the vaults. And so in the 1960s, they were like, okay, let's go ahead and distribute these. And I think the initial offering was like $15, and all these collectors bought them up. But yeah, now that you can get one in this nifty case, I mean, this thing, it's beautiful. It really is sort of like an old-fashioned thing that you can have, and it reminds you of better days in America when everybody wasn't so woke and crazy. People say that, oh, if you're nostalgic for the old times, you're nostalgic for oppression. No. If you're nostalgic for the old times, you're nostalgic for a time in America where people respected things like morality and ethics and not like wokeness and horrible things like that. But when people they actually had a sense of integrity. And I think people long for those days. All right, so if you want one of these Carson City coins and you want to invest in an IRA or a 401k, get in touch with the experts at noblegoldinvestments.com or call 877-646-5347 and talk to the experts now. That's 877-646-5347, or you can go to the website noblegoldinvestments.com or click the link in the description below. Now this one's great, guys. You're going to love this one. I love this one. I posted this on Twitter. I talked about this on Twitter, but I want to talk about it now. There's two videos that you need to watch, and they're both magnificent in their own way. Okay, let's have a look at this.
You know, as president, I have a military aide from each of the 5 services. My Coast Guard aides have been excellent. One of them taught me that, and I quote, "The Coast Guard is that hard nucleus about which the Navy forms in time of war."
Ronald Reagan has this quote that he's heard. He's like, yeah, this was referred to as a joke by, I think it was Forbes magazine. And this is not a joke, right? This is an expression of the critical nature of the Coast Guard, right? Just talking about how important they are to the Navy. It's just a nice thing to say. It's a profound thing to say. It's a good thing to say. All right. Now, there is one president that we've had in the United States and in American politics that is known for, over the years, plagiarizing other people's speeches. Maybe you guys know who that is. Well, I won't hold you in any more suspense. Let's have a look. That's right. It's Mr. Joe Biden. And this is Joe Biden's attempt at expressing the same sentiment, using precisely the same line. But, yeah. Okay, so let's see how that goes.
I can only assume that you will enjoy educating your family about how the Coast Guard is, quote, the hard nucleus around the Navy forms in times of war. You're a really dull class. I mean, come on, man. Is the sun getting to you? I would think you'd have an opportunity when I say that about the Navy to clap, but being here together.
So, a lot of people in the media are framing this as offensive to the Coast Guard or something, or but I don't think it's about that. I think what it is just shows how inferior Joe Biden is as a president. And look, it's a little bit unfair, right? You're comparing him to the greatest president of all time, right? The man that they nicknamed the Great Communicator. Okay. Biden might be described as Biden the incompetent, right? Biden the feeble, Biden the feckless, Biden the absolutely useless, Biden the cheater. Let's call him that. But look, Joe Biden cannot communicate at all. I mean, he's basically probably one of the worst presidents we've ever had in history, probably the worst we've ever had in history in terms of his ability to communicate, to speak with authority, to speak in coherent sentences, for that matter. So he takes a line from the great communicator Ronald Reagan, and first of all, he doesn't even say it right. He doesn't even use the right words, but he steals this line. So all he has to do is recite the lines. Recite the lines. That's all he has to do. Well, okay, no, that's not true. There's a little bit more to it than just reciting lines. But that's the most basic thing you got to get right? You got to get the line right. If people don't even understand what he said, people don't even understand what he was trying to say. War forms around the Navy, the hard nucleus, and you can tell them about that. They're sitting there looking at him, and they're just thinking, I don't even understand what he means. And what's really annoying about that is you might say, okay, yeah, well, he was just quoting Reagan. He was just quoting Reagan. That would be fine if he said, I believe it was Reagan who said, and then presented the line, right? Or not I believe, but it was Reagan who said, and he can say, like, I agree with this sentiment, right? But he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. He just says the line as if he invented it, or, it's something that he came up with this idea, or his writers came up with this idea. I mean, and then he doesn't even say the line right. But what's worse, because like I said, there is more to it than just expressing a line. It's sort of like being a stand-up comedian, right? If you've ever watched a stand-up comedian and gone, oh, I love that joke, and then thought, I want to make the same joke, and then you told your friend, right? You told your friend the joke, and you're like, oh, that's a really good joke, I'm going to repeat it. And you're like, dude, I watched the stand-up comedian last night, he was awesome. And then you repeat that joke to your friend, and your friend is like, I don't get it. Or they don't laugh, or they just think, okay, this wasn't right. Well, what's the problem there? The problem is the delivery, right? You've got to know how to deliver a line effectively. Now, this wasn't a joke. This was a line that was supposed to praise the Coast Guard, praise the people that he was sitting there talking to. And, Reagan did it right. He did it in such a way where everybody in front of him, the whole group of cadets in front of him, I think cadets is the right term, they start screaming, yeah! All right? Good job, Reagan. You got that line in right on the money. Their timing was perfect. You actually got the words right. Important part of any form of expression. And then fast forward to 2021. Whew, yeah, Biden really massacred that line. So Biden steals the line from Reagan, and then he totally mangles it. He can't get it out right. Nobody laughs. Everybody's a little bit uncomfortable. And that totally feels like what's happened throughout his whole presidency. And now everybody's sitting there uncomfortable. They don't want to laugh. They don't want to cheer. They don't know what to do. They're just embarrassed, right? And I just feel like that's who we are as a country now. We're just embarrassed that this doddering old fool is running the country, somebody that most Americans don't even believe won legitimately. Do you know a majority of Americans believe that the election was stolen? A majority of Americans believe that. And yet we're not allowed to talk about that on social media. It's freaking ridiculous. I mention this all the time on my show, but 30% of Democrats think the election was stolen. 30% of the people who won think that they stole it. I don't know. And that's just the people that admit that they think that it was stolen. So, yeah. I thought that this was a perfect example of, one, obviously Joe Biden's incompetence, and two, the fact that he's still willing to plagiarize speeches, which is like, seriously, Joe? Seriously? And there was something a little bit inappropriate about how he responded to those Coast Guard, mostly men, I think. I know he was trying to play it off. I know he was really expecting a cheer and he didn't get it. And honestly, like, however inappropriate it was, I think more so it was just pathetic, right? It reminded me of that moment. I don't know if you guys remember this. I'm going to actually look this up because it's so funny.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite moments in political history. I absolutely love that. Please clap. I mean, I do have to say this. I will give Biden this. Despite the fact that he was a little bit dickish with the Coast Guard, that was actually a much better way of dealing with it. You know, if you've said something, you expect everybody to cheer and to clap and to be enthusiastic about what you said, and you realize what you said didn't land. I think teasing them a little bit about it is a little bit of is a much better strategy than to just pathetically say, please clap. But what Biden is doing was essentially the same thing. He was just doing it a little bit better, right? So Biden, I never really thought about this, but Biden is actually a better communicator, a better politician than Jeb Bush, which is weird because I guess we don't really take into account how bad Jeb Bush is at that sort of thing. You just expect him to be okay at it since his brother and his father were both president, but no, he's obviously terrible. But Joe Biden's pretty close to as bad as Jeb Bush was. I mean, he's pretty close to being as pathetic in that moment. He's berating these young men, and I assume there's a few women in there, for not clapping at something that he said. You don't do that. You just move on. Or you're self-deprecating, right? You say, maybe the Republicans are right. I'm getting old, If Biden said something like that, if Biden at any point said, maybe the Republicans are right, I am getting old, that's like a Reagan line, right? That's like something Reagan would have said. And everybody would have just started busting up laughing. Everybody would have loved it. But he doesn't. He says, come on, man. What's wrong with you guys? You guys are such a dull group. He calls them dull. And look, I'm not as offended by that as a lot of people in the media, but it's just pathetic. It's just pathetic. You can't land a line. You flub the line, first of all. You massacre the line. And then you blame the people that you were speaking to for not clapping for you. They were being charitable, not clapping for you, because you messed up the line. It wasn't effective. You didn't even say the right words. And so these Coast Guard, I think by not laughing at you, I think they were being charitable. Yeah, sure, they didn't clap, but be grateful they didn't laugh at you. They finally laughed when you berated them. But I don't think they were laughing because what you said was really all that funny. I certainly didn't. I laughed because after failing miserably, you blamed someone else. You had the audacity to blame the people listening to you mess up for your horrible mistake. They didn't get it or something, right? They're dull. They're dull. That's the problem, Biden. You know what, Biden? That's the problem with all of your rallies. That's the problem with all your speeches. From the moment you started campaigning, the reason why you're not getting laughs, why you're not getting claps, why you're not getting people showing up and even listening to you, it's because we're all dull, Joe. That's why. Yeah, you just keep thinking that. Anyway, I love this story because, as I said, this is a beautiful metaphor for exactly what's happened with Biden's entire presidency. All right, guys, that's it for today. I will see you guys again soon. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.